I stared at my reflection in the bridesmaid's dress I'd spent months helping my sister Sarah pick out. The soft lavender fabric seemed to mock me as my phone buzzed for the fifth time in 10 minutes. All messages from Jake. Honey, please. The pain is getting worse. I don't think I can breathe properly. I closed my eyes, fighting back tears of frustration. This was the fourth medical emergency this month, and somehow, they always coincided perfectly with my plans to see my family. Emma, my sister's mother-in-law, poked her head into the bridal suite. Your husband's mother is here. She says it's urgent. My heart sank. Of course, Jake had called his mother to guilt me into staying home. He always did. But when Patricia burst into the room, her expression wasn't what I expected. Emma, we need to talk. She grabbed my arm, pulling me into the corner. Jake called me this morning about his chest pains. I know, Patricia. He's been texting. I was at your house last night. That stopped me cold. What? I dropped by unannounced around 8 p.m. to return that casserole dish. I saw him through the window. She hesitated. He was practicing chest-clutching poses in the mirror and looking up convincing symptoms on his phone. The room seemed to spin as 3 years of suspicious illnesses suddenly clicked into place. The mysterious fever that had kept me from Sarah's engagement party. The violent stomach bug that struck the morning of my parents' 40th anniversary. The severe migraine that prevented me from attending my cousin's baby shower. My phone buzzed again, this time with a photo of Jake looking pale and pained in our bed. The same bed where, according to his mother, he'd been perfectly fine last night. There's more, Patricia said, her face tight with anger. I heard him on the phone with his friend Mike. He was laughing about how he perfected the timing of his attacks to keep you away from your family. My hands shook as I scrolled through my photo gallery. Dozens of pictures of Jake in supposed agony, each one perfectly timed to ruin an important family event. Why are you telling me this now? I asked his mother. Because I raised him better than this. Her eyes filled with tears. And because I saw what he did to his first wife. I didn't speak up then, and she spent 5 years isolated from everyone she loved. I won't let it happen again. Another message from Jake. Baby, I think we need to call an ambulance. Please come home. I thought about Sarah, getting ready in the next room, excited for me to help with her veil just like we planned since we were little girls. I thought about all the moments I'd missed, all the family memories I'd sacrificed for Jake's convenient crisis. He's not going to stop, is he? I whispered. Not unless you make him, Patricia confirmed. He called me this morning to make sure I would back up his story about the chest pains. When I refused, he said he'd find another way to keep you home. My phone lit up with a call from Jake. With trembling fingers, I answered on speaker. Emma. His voice came through, weak and gasping. I need you. Can't breathe properly. Please come home. Jake, I said calmly, your mother is here with me. The line went silent for a moment. Then, in a surprisingly normal voice, Mom's there. Yes, and she told me about her visit last night, about what she saw through the window. She's lying? His voice instantly returned to its pained whisper. She's confused. The pain. Emma, please. Patricia leaned toward the phone. I have videos, Jake, of you practicing. Of you laughing with Mike about your perfect timing. Another pause. When he spoke again, the pretense was gone, replaced by cold anger. You had no right to interfere, Mother. And you had no right to manipulate your wife, she shot back. Not again. Not like with Rachel. Rachel? I cut in. Your first wife? Don't you dare. Jake hissed through the phone. She needs to know, Patricia insisted. Rachel missed her own mother's funeral because of one of your emergencies. That's when I should have spoken up. I'm not making the same mistake twice. I looked at my reflection again, at the bridesmaid's dress Sarah, and I had spent months planning. At the sister who'd been there for every important moment in my life, except the ones Jake had stolen. Jake, I said firmly, I'm staying at the wedding. And when I get home, we need to have a serious talk about your convenient medical conditions. If you stay at that wedding, he growled, all pretense of illness gone, don't bother coming home at all. Patricia reached for my hand, squeezing it supportively. Maybe that's exactly what needs to happen. I ended the call as Jake started to protest. Almost immediately, texts began flooding in, alternating between pleas of illness and threats of consequences. Emma? Sarah's voice came from the doorway. Is everything okay? We need to start with the photos. I looked at my phone one last time before turning it off completely. Everything's fine, Sarah. For the first time in a long time, everything's actually fine. Patricia hugged me quickly. I'll handle him. You go be with your sister. As I walked towards Sarah, I felt lighter than I had in years. Jake's critical condition had finally revealed its true symptoms, not of illness, but of control. The wedding ceremony was beautiful, but my phone, which I'd briefly turned back on during the reception, told a different story. 37 missed calls, 15 voicemails, and over 50 texts, each more dramatic than the last. Took an ambulance to the hospital. Doctors are very concerned. If you cared at all about me, your family has always been more important. Then the final blow. A poorly lit hospital selfie, complete with what looked like hastily attached monitoring wires. Only now did I notice what I'd been blind to before. The hospital room was clearly our guest bedroom, with a white sheet hung as a backdrop. Emma. Sarah touched my arm, radiant in her wedding dress. Mom told me what's going on. Jake's mother showed her the videos. I quickly wiped away a tear. I'm so sorry for all the events I've missed. Don't you dare apologize. She hugged me tight. We all saw what was happening, but every time we tried to say something. He'd have another emergency, I finished. And I'd defend him, saying you were all just being unsupportive. Mrs. Collins, a hotel staff member, approached us. There's a situation at the front desk. A man claiming to be your husband is demanding to be let into the reception. He's in what appears to be hospital wear. Sarah's new husband, Mark, immediately stepped forward. I'll handle this. No, I said firmly, squaring my shoulders. I will. Patricia appeared at my side. I'm coming with you. It's time he faced both of us. The scene at the hotel entrance was exactly what I'd feared. Jake, dressed in what looked like costume shop scrubs, leaned dramatically against the reception desk while a concerned clerk hovered nearby. Sir, without an invitation. That's my wife in there. Jake's voice was weak and trembling. The same performance I'd seen countless times. I signed myself out AMA. Against medical advice, he added for dramatic effect. Because she needs to know how serious this is. How serious? What is Jake? He spun around at my voice, nearly losing his balance in his attempt to appear faint. Emma, baby. I had to come. The doctors said. Which doctors? Patricia interrupted. At which hospital? Because I called every ER in a city. No record of you anywhere. Jake's face flickered for a moment before resuming its pained expression. It was. They must have. The records aren't updated yet. Take off the costume, Jake, I said quietly. Everyone here knows the truth. Costume. He clutched his chest. I'm hurt that you'd. Oh God. The pain. He started to crumple to the ground in his signature move. The one I now realized he perfected over years of manipulation. But this time, instead of rushing to catch him, I stood my ground. Jake Thompson. Patricia's voice cracked like a whip. Get up this instant. Perhaps it was the shock of his mother's tone, or maybe the realization that his audience wasn't buying the performance, but Jake froze halfway to the floor. For a moment, he looked almost comical, caught between his act and reality. Security has been called, the clerk announced. Jake straightened up so fast it would have been miraculous for someone supposedly in critical condition. You can't be serious. Emma, tell them who I am. I'm just starting to figure out who you really are. I replied. 3 years of missed family events, 3 years of mysterious illnesses that only struck when I had plans. Did you do the same thing to Rachel? His face darkened at his first wife's name. Mother, you've been telling tales. I've been telling the truth, Patricia shot back. Something you should try sometime. Hotel security arrived, 2 large men in professional uniforms. Jake immediately tried to resume his patient act, but no one was buying it. Sir, you need to leave the premises. But I'm sick. He made one last attempt at his performance. My wife, she's abandoning me in my hour of need. Like you abandoned Rachel when her mother was dying. Patricia's words hit like bullets. Only she believed you. Emma's smarter than that. As security began to escort him out, Jake's facade finally cracked completely. You think you're so special with your perfect family? He spat at me. Go ahead. Choose them. But don't come crying back when you need me. Need you. I laughed, and the sound surprised even me. Jake, I haven't needed you. I've been nursing your imaginary illnesses instead of living my life. That stops today. I want you out of the house by tomorrow, I continued, my voice growing stronger. Since you're well enough to crash a wedding, you're well enough to pack. You can't do this. His voice rose, drawing stares from hotel guests. I'm sick. I need care. I need a really good actor's workshop, Sarah suggested, appearing beside me. Because honestly, Jake, your performances have gotten a bit stale. Security finally managed to remove him, his protests echoing through the lobby. As the doors closed behind them, I felt my knees shake. Breathe, Patricia said softly, holding my arm. Just breathe. How did I not see it? I whispered. All those times. Because you're a good person who wants to believe the best in people, Sarah said. But now you know the truth. My phone buzzed again. Jake, obviously. But this time, the message was different. You'll regret this. Who's going to take care of you now? I showed the text to Patricia, who shook her head sadly. That's what he said to Rachel too. Is need to be needed. To control. I should have stopped it sooner. You stopped it now, I said, hugging her. That's what matters. Sarah linked her arm through mine. Now I believe we have a wedding reception to return to, and for the first time in 3 years, my sister can actually stay for the whole thing. As we walked back to the reception, I felt both lighter and stronger. Jake's critical condition had finally been exposed for what it was, a chronic case of manipulation and control. And sometimes the best medicine for that is simply walking away. Emma. Patricia caught my hand. Rachel found happiness after Jake. Real happiness with someone who celebrated her independence instead of sabotaging it. You will too. I squeezed her hand back, grateful for the mother-in-law who'd chosen truth over loyalty to her son. Behind us, I could hear the fading sounds of Jake's protests as security escorted him off the property. But ahead, I could hear the music and laughter from my sister's wedding reception. For the first time in 3 years, I was choosing the right direction to walk. And this time, no convenient emergency was going to stop me. 6 months after Sarah's wedding, I sat in my new apartment, surrounded by photos of family events I finally stopped missing. The latest addition was from my parents' Christmas dinner, the first holiday in 3 years I'd attended without a last-minute medical crisis forcing me to leave early. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. Thought you should know. Jake's new girlfriend just called me. He's having one of his episodes because she wants to visit her family next weekend. I smiled sadly, remembering how long it had taken me to stop jumping every time my phone rang, expecting another emergency. Did you warn her? Sent her the videos I took that night. She's already packed her bags. After the wedding incident, Jake had tried everything to maintain his control, showing up at my workplace with fake medical documents, sending his friends to tell me how sick he really was, even attempting to get himself admitted to a hospital. Though that backfired when the doctors found nothing wrong. The final straw had come when he tried to fake a collapse at my parents' house, hoping to guilt me into taking him back. Unfortunately for him, one of my cousins was an actual ER doctor who called his bluff immediately. Emma? Sarah's voice came through my open door. She'd gotten into the habit of visiting regularly now that Jake wasn't around to have convenient crises. Ready for lunch? Just a minute. I called back, smiling at the simple joy of being able to make plans without dreading a last-minute cancellation. My coffee table still held the divorce papers, finally signed last week. Jake's last attempt at manipulation had been to claim he was too ill to sign them, until his lawyer bluntly informed him that further delays would result in a default judgment. You know what I don't miss? I asked Sarah as we walked to our favorite cafe, one Jake had always claimed made him mysteriously sick. What's that? The constant state of emergency, the waiting for the next crisis, the guilt when I didn't immediately drop everything to rush to his side. Sarah nodded. Remember Thanksgiving 2 years ago? When he developed that sudden allergic reaction right as Mom was serving dinner. And now we know he was just angry because you were all paying attention to my promotion instead of his imaginary symptoms. I laughed, the sound free and genuine. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Patricia. Jake's girlfriend just called back. Said to thank you for saving her from what you went through. She's staying with her sister. You know, Sarah said, reading over my shoulder, you and Patricia probably saved that girl years of what you endured. Patricia saved us both, I corrected. I don't know if I would have seen the truth without her courage to speak up. We settled at our usual table, ordering without fear of a dramatic phone call interrupting us. The waiter recognized us now. The sisters who actually get to finish their meals, he joked. Have you heard about Rachel? Sarah asked. Jake's first wife. Patricia mentioned she's getting married again next month, to a doctor, ironically enough. A real one, not someone who plays one during convenient emergencies. We both laughed, the kind of free, healing laughter that had been impossible during my marriage. My phone stayed quiet throughout lunch, no emergencies, no guilt trips, no carefully staged photo evidence of fictional crisis, just the peaceful silence of a normal afternoon with my sister. Later, as I walked home alone, I passed the hospital where Jake had claimed so many fake emergencies. A young couple rushed past me toward the ER, the man clearly in genuine distress, the woman supporting him with real concern. I said a silent prayer for them, grateful that their emergency was real, and grateful that I could now tell the difference. Back in my apartment, I finally took down the last photo of Jake and me, one where he was dramatically leaning on me during one of his episodes. In its place, I put up a new one from Sarah's wedding, taken after Jake had been escorted out. In it, I was surrounded by family, laughing, free from the constant weight of manufactured emergencies and manipulative guilt. Sometimes the best prescription for a toxic relationship is the courage to walk away, and the wisdom to recognize that real love doesn't come with convenient crises. Jake's critical condition had finally been cured, not by playing nurse, but by choosing freedom. And that was the healthiest decision I ever made. I was elbow deep in garden soil, finally planting the herb garden I dreamed of during my 12-year marriage to Marcus, when my phone started buzzing. The contact photo, a red warning sign I'd set after the divorce, made my stomach clench. Liv, thank God you answered. Marcus's voice had that familiar panicked edge that used to send me running to fix whatever crisis he created. I need your help. It's important. Marcus, we agreed to only communicate about. I know, but this is different. The IRS is auditing the business records from 2019 to 2021. If I don't get certain documents updated by Monday, I'll lose everything. My hands stilled in the dirt. 2019 to 2021, the years before our divorce, when I'd been the company's bookkeeper. The years he'd insisted I sign papers without reading them because he was in a hurry and didn't I trust him. What kind of documents? Just some tax forms that need your signature. To correct a small oversight. He paused. Remember those consulting fees we wrote off? The consulting fees. I remembered questioning them. Large payments to companies I'd never heard of. Marcus had assured me they were legitimate business expenses essential for the company's growth. What about them? Well, they might not have been entirely real. The fresh soil under my fingernails suddenly felt like evidence. What do you mean, not real? Look, it doesn't matter now. I just need you to sign these updated forms saying you weren't aware of the consulting arrangements, that I handled all of that without your knowledge. Marcus, I'll lose the business, Liv, the house, everything I've built. Ashley's pregnant. Did you know that? We're having a boy. Please, I can't let my son's father be a failure. The manipulation was so familiar it almost made me laugh. Marcus had always known exactly which emotional buttons to push. Send me the papers, I said. I'll have my accountant look them over. No. His voice sharpened. No accountants. This needs to be handled quietly. I'll bring them over tonight. My phone buzzed with an incoming text. Unknown number, but the message made my blood run cold. This is Ashley. Marcus doesn't know I'm texting you. Do you know his aging ANYT chain? I have proof of what he's really planning. Can we meet? Liv, are you listening? This is urgent. The IRS meeting is Monday morning. I stared at my dirt-stained hands, remembering all the times I'd signed documents without questioning. Not this time. Text me the details, I said. I'll think about it. I ended the call despite his protests and immediately responded to Ashley's message. Within minutes, we'd arranged to meet at a coffee shop across town. Ashley was already there when I arrived, her designer handbag a sharp contrast to my gardening clothes. Her perfectly manicured hands shook slightly as she pulled out her phone. I found these emails last night, she said without preamble. I was looking for our insurance documents on his laptop and saw these by accident. The emails were between Marcus and someone named Victor Chen. As I read, my gardening-induced peace evaporated. "He's planning to pin everything on you," Ashley said quietly. "The fake consulting firms, the money laundering, all of it. He's got documents backdated to when you were bookkeeper, making it look like you set up the whole scheme." "But I did." "I know." She rested her hand on her slightly swollen belly. "That's why I had to warn you. The baby, he's not Marcus's. I was going to leave next week, move back to my parents. Then I found these emails." My mind raced through all the documents I'd signed during those final years of marriage. How many of them had been part of this scheme? "There's more," Ashley continued, scrolling through her phone. "He's been moving money offshore. The consulting fees were just the beginning. The IRS audit, it's real, but he's known about it for months. He's been planning this setup since before our wedding." "Why are you showing me this?" Her laugh was bitter. "Because I watched him destroy his business partner 5 years ago. The man lost everything, his reputation, his savings, even his family. I can't let him do that to someone else. Especially not when—" She touched her stomach again. My phone buzzed. Marcus sending another desperate text about bringing the papers tonight. "He's got it all planned," Ashley said. "Once you sign those documents, he'll use them to prove you were running an embezzlement scheme. He keeps bragging to his friends about how his bitter ex-wife will take the fall while he walks away clean with all the hidden money." I thought about my herb garden, the peace I found after leaving Marcus, the life I'd built without his constant crises. "I have copies of everything," Ashley said. "Emails, bank transfers, the real consulting contracts. Even recordings of him bragging about setting you up. I'm giving you everything before I leave." "Won't he know it was you?" She smiled grimly. "By Monday morning, I'll be in Seattle with my parents and my real baby's father. Let him figure it out." My phone buzzed again. "Liv, please. You know I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. I need you." I showed Ashley the message. She pulled out a USB drive and laid it on the table. "That's what he said to his last business partner too, right before destroying him." She stood up, gathering her designer bag. "The choice is yours. But remember, those documents he wants you to sign, they're not just papers. They're your confession to crimes you didn't commit." As she walked away, my phone lit up with Marcus's latest message. "I'll be there at 8 with the papers. Just one signature and all our problems go away." I looked at the USB drive, then at my dirt-stained hands. I'd spent years cleaning up Marcus's messes. But this time, the only thing I needed to clean was my conscience. I picked up my phone and dialed my lawyer's emergency number. Sometimes the biggest mistakes aren't the ones we make. They're the ones we almost fall for. By 7:30 p.m., my living room had transformed into a war room. My lawyer, Sandra Chen, no relation to Victor, thankfully, sat reviewing the files from Ashley's USB drive while 2 IRS agents quietly took notes. My gardening clothes had been replaced with a recording device carefully hidden under my shirt. "Remember," Agent Torres said, adjusting my wire, "let him do most of the talking. The more he explains, the better." Sandra looked up from her laptop. "These transfers are impressive. He's been planning this for years, Liv, since before your divorce. And I signed everything he put in front of me." The realization made me sick. I was the perfect patsy. "You were a trusting wife," Sandra corrected. "There's a difference." My phone buzzed with another text from Marcus. "Parking now. You're doing the right thing, Liv. Just like always." The agents moved to the back room, leaving me alone in my living room. The herb garden was visible through the window, half-planted, tools scattered. Evidence of the peaceful life Marcus was trying to destroy. The doorbell rang at exactly 8 p.m. Marcus stood there, looking exactly as he had during our marriage when he needed something, slightly disheveled, wearing the expensive watch I'd given him for our 10th anniversary, his eyes wide with manufactured sincerity. "Liv," he breathed, stepping in without waiting for an invitation. You look good. Really good." "The papers, Marcus?" He clutched his briefcase tighter. "Always straight to business, huh? Remember when we used to talk, really talk? About those consulting fees you needed me to sign off on?" His smile flickered. "Water under the bridge. These new papers will fix everything. Like you fixed things with Peter Morrison." Marcus froze halfway to my couch. Peter Morrison, his former business partner. The name Ashley had mentioned. What about Pete? Just wondering if he needed to sign papers too, before he lost everything. Marcus's recovery was quick, but I caught the flash of calculation in his eyes. Pete made his own mistakes. This is different. This is just cleaning up some paperwork. He sat down, spreading documents across my coffee table. It's simple, really. Just sign here acknowledging you handled all external consulting contracts during those years. And here confirming you set up the payment arrangements. And the offshore accounts. His pen clattered to the floor. What offshore accounts? The ones Victor Chen helped you set up. Or should I say, helped you make it look like I set up. How did you? He caught himself. I don't know what you're talking about. These are just amended tax documents. Amended to show I committed fraud? No. Well, technically yes, but it's not like that. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to that intimate tone he'd always use when convincing me to trust him. Look, someone has to take responsibility for the discrepancies. If it's me, we lose everything. The business, the assets, everything. But if it's you, I go to prison while you keep the money? You wouldn't go to prison. You're a first-time offender, a woman, you get probation maybe, and I take care of you after, make sure you had everything you needed. Like you took care of Pete Morrison? His face hardened. Pete was different. He was actually guilty. And I'm actually innocent. But that doesn't matter to you, does it? What matters is solving this problem. He stood up, pacing. The IRS is breathing down my neck. These papers make everything go away. You sign, I handle the rest. Simple. Like the consulting fees were simple. The ones that went to shell companies. You signed off on those too, he snapped, then caught himself. I mean, you handled those arrangements, remember? Actually, I said clearly for the benefit of the wire. I remember you telling me they were routine business expenses. That I just needed to sign quickly because you were in a hurry. And you did sign. That's the point. You were the bookkeeper. You signed everything. If there were irregularities, they're your responsibility. Is that what these papers say? That it's all my responsibility? They say what needs to be said to fix this. He ran his hands through his hair. A calculated gesture I'd seen him practice in mirrors. Liv, please, Ashley's pregnant. Would you really let your nephew grow up with a ruined father? I thought of Ashley, probably halfway to Seattle by now. Does the baby know it's not yours? The blood drained from his face. What? Ashley told me everything, Marcus. About the baby. About Victor Chen. About how you bragged to your friends that your bitter ex-wife would take the fall. He recovered quickly, he always did. Ashley's lying. She's jealous, unstable. You can't trust. The emails in your laptop. The recordings of you planning this with Victor? Are those lying too? For a moment, I saw the real Marcus, cold, calculating, furious at being caught. Then the mask slipped back into place. Okay, let's be reasonable. You have evidence, I have evidence. Maybe we can make a deal. Split the offshore money, file the papers my way, everyone wins. Everyone except me when the IRS finds the trail you've spent years creating. I can protect you. I've thought of everything. His voice rose with desperation. The consulting contracts have your digital signature. The wire transfers were done from your computer. The shell companies were registered with your old email. It's perfect. Perfect for whom? For us, like old times, Liv. You and me, handling things together. Just sign the papers, take your share, and confess to felony fraud. Agent Torres stepped out of the back room. That's quite an offer, Mr. Richardson. Marcus went completely still. Whoa. Agent Miller appeared from the kitchen, holding up a badge. IRS Criminal Investigation Division. We've been very interested in those consulting fees. And I've been very interested in these emails, Sandra said, emerging with her laptop. Conspiracy to commit fraud, evidence tampering, attempted coercion of a witness. Fascinating reading. Marcus lunged for his briefcase, but Torres was faster. Those papers aren't going anywhere, Mr. Richardson, except into evidence. Liv, Marcus tried one last time. You can't do this to me. To us, remember everything we shared? I remember signing papers without reading them. I remember trusting you. I remember being the perfect patsy. I pulled off the wire, handing it to Miller. But mostly, I remember learning to garden after our divorce. And the funny thing about gardens, Marcus, you learn to recognize poison plants before they can take root. As the agents let him out in handcuffs, his mask finally cracked completely. You'll regret this. I was trying to help you. No, I said quietly, you were trying to bury me. But I've spent 2 years learning to grow instead. Through my window, I could see my half-planted herb garden. Tomorrow, I'd finish it. And this time, nothing toxic would be growing there. 1 year later, I sat in the courthouse corridor, waiting to testify at Marcus's sentencing hearing. The herb garden back home was thriving, oregano, basil, and lavender growing in neat rows where chaos had once reigned. Ashley, sporting a now active toddler on her hip, settled next to me on the bench. She'd flown in from Seattle to give her own testimony about Marcus's schemes. He tried to contact me again last week, she said, bouncing her son. Wanted me to testify that I'd made everything up out of jealousy. Let me guess, he promised to take care of you after. And to be a real father to Tommy. She kissed her son's head. As if he hadn't spent months denying the baby wasn't his. The investigation had revealed more victims than either of us had imagined. After Peter Morrison, there had been 3 other business partners, 2 former employees, and countless investors, all carefully set up to take the fall for Marcus's financial schemes. Ms. Richardson, the prosecutor stepped out. We're ready for you. Inside the courtroom, Marcus sat in his designer suit, still trying to maintain control. He'd rejected all plea deals, convinced he could charm his way out of consequences just as he always had. But the evidence was overwhelming. The USB drive Ashley had provided was just the beginning. Once people realized Marcus was finally facing justice, they came forward with years of documents, recordings, and testimonies. The defendant systematically created an elaborate framework to blame his former wife for his criminal activities, the prosecutor stated. Using her trust during their marriage, he planted evidence that would have sent an innocent woman to prison while he escaped with millions in fraudulent gains. Marcus's eyes locked onto mine as I took the stand. I recognized his expression, the same one he'd worn when convincing me to sign those consulting contracts. But this time, I saw through it. Mrs. Richardson, the prosecutor began. Ms. Anderson, I corrected. I reclaimed my maiden name. Ms. Anderson, could you tell the court about the night Mr. Richardson brought you documents to sign? I detailed everything, the desperate phone call, the manipulation, the attempted setup. With each word, I watched Marcus's facade crack further. And if Ms. Chen hadn't warned you, I would be the one on trial today, I said simply, while Marcus walked away with the money and a clean record. During cross-examination, Marcus's lawyer tried to paint me as a bitter ex-wife seeking revenge. But the evidence spoke for itself, especially the recording of Marcus explicitly laying out his plan to frame me. After I stepped down, Ashley took the stand. Her testimony about finding the emails, Marcus's boasts of setting me up, and his history of destroying partners who trusted him was devastating. The jury took less than 3 hours to reach their verdict, guilty on all counts. At the sentencing, Marcus finally spoke. Your Honor, I've made mistakes, but everything I did for my family, my business. No, I interrupted from my seat. You did it for control. There's a difference. The judge agreed. 15 years, no possibility of early parole, and full restitution to all victims. Outside the courthouse, Ashley hugged me goodbye before heading to the airport. You know what Tommy's first word was? Garden. My new husband built us one like yours. I smiled, thinking of my own thriving herbs. Sometimes the best things grow from the worst situations. Marcus's lawyer called again, she added. Says he's willing to reveal where the rest of the money is hidden in exchange for a reduced sentence. Too late, I said. The IRS found the last offshore account yesterday. We said our goodbyes, and I watched her leave with her son, both of them free from Marcus's manipulation. Back home, I worked in my garden, the smell of fresh herbs replacing the sterile courthouse air. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, a message from Marcus's prison account. I could have made you rich. We could have had everything. I looked at my dirt-stained hands, at the thriving garden, at the peaceful home I'd built. I already have everything, I texted back, then blocked the number. Sometimes the richest soil comes from composted lies. And in my garden, truth was finally blooming. The sound of Jessica's designer heels clicking against my worn kitchen linoleum always reminded me of approaching storms. Today was no different as my daughter-in-law strode into my modest suburban home like she owned it, though if she knew who actually owned the entire development, she might have walked differently. Mother Grace. She never called me just Grace, always emphasizing the mother with that subtle tone that suggested I barely deserved the title. We need to talk about my business opportunity. I continued washing my morning coffee mug, the chipped one I'd kept for 20 years, even after acquiring the resources to buy entire China factories. Would you like some tea, dear? I don't have time for your discount store tea. Jessica dropped her Hermes bag on my kitchen table. This is important, life-changing important. My son Thomas trailed behind her, looking uncomfortable in his expensive suit that screamed trying too hard. I'd raised him to earn his own way, keeping my true wealth hidden to protect him from exactly the kind of people his wife had turned out to be. Mom, he started, Jessica has this amazing business plan. It's not just a plan, she interrupted, pulling out a glossy presentation folder. It's a movement. Wellness by Jessica is going to revolutionize the influencer industry. I already have 10,000 followers. I dry my hands on my faded dish towel, noting how she winced at its apparent cheapness. That sounds interesting, dear. What does this have to do with me? Well, she flipped open her folder, revealing charts that would have made my actual business advisors cry. I need seed money. Just a small investment, really, $200,000. I heard Thomas's sharp intake of breath. He thought I had only modest retirement savings from my years as a small business consultant. That's a lot of money, Jessica, he said quietly. It's called believing in yourself, Thomas. She shot him an irritated look before turning back to me with her practiced smile. Mother Grace, this is your chance to be part of something spectacular. Think about it, your retirement savings just sitting there when it could be working for the family's future. I sat down at my kitchen table, the same one I kept through 3 decades of building my tech empire. Tell me about your business model. It's all about authenticity, she gushed, pointing to her projected follower growth. I'll be selling wellness packages, exclusive coaching sessions, my own line of supplements. And the $200,000 would be for initial inventory, website development, professional photo shoots, my personal brand consultant. She paused dramatically. I've already talked to some investors, but I wanted to give family the first opportunity. How generous. I glanced at the numbers on her charts, and these projections. Conservative, really. My brand consultant says I could hit 1 million followers by next year. Do you know how much influencers make per post? I did actually. My company owns several major social media platforms, though that wasn't public knowledge yet. The announcement would come next month, along with my first public appearance as CEO. Jessica, I said gently, I can't give you my retirement savings. Her face froze. Excuse me? It wouldn't be responsible financial planning. Responsible? Her voice rose. I'm offering you the opportunity of a lifetime. This is your chance to finally be part of something successful. Thomas stepped forward. Jess, maybe we should. No. She slammed her folder shut. Your mother has always been like this, small-minded, stuck in her little world of coupons and discount stores. She probably doesn't even understand what an influencer is. If she only knew how many times I've been on the cover of Business Insider under my corporate name, or that her favorite influencer platform was one of my recent acquisitions. I understand it's important to you, I said calmly, but I can't help. Can't or won't? She stood, gathering her things with sharp movements. You know what? Fine. Stay here in your little house with your little dreams. But don't come crying to me when you need help in your old age because your savings ran out. Jessica, Thomas finally found his voice. That's enough. No, it's not enough. She whirled on him. Your mother has always held us back. Living in this embarrassing house, shopping at discount stores, making me look bad in front of my followers. Well, I'm done. She stormed toward the door, then turned back with a vicious smile. By the way, I've been invited to the Fortune 500 gala next month. You know, where actual successful people gather. Don't worry about trying to attend. I'm sure they don't let discount store shoppers in. After she slammed the door, Thomas stood there looking torn. Mom, I'm so sorry. She's just passionate about her dreams. It's all right, dear. I started making tea. Expensive Ceylon from my discount tin. Sit down. I think it's time we had a talk about what your mother actually does for a living. Mom. You see, tomorrow's Fortune 500 magazine is going to have an interesting cover story. And since Jessica's so interested in the gala next month, she might want to pay special attention to the keynote speaker. I pulled out my phone, showing him the advance copy of tomorrow's magazine cover. His face went pale as he saw my professional headshot, the headline, "The Silent Queen of Tech, Grace Chen's $50 billion empire finally revealed." But, he collapsed into a chair. All this time, I confirmed, pouring tea into my chipped mug. "Now shall we talk about what your wife might say when she realizes who's actually hosting that gala she's so excited about?" The next morning, I sat in my real office on the 60th floor of Chen Technologies headquarters, watching multiple screens as the news broke. My PR team had orchestrated everything perfectly: simultaneous releases across all major networks, coordinated social media campaigns, and of course, that Fortune 500 cover story. "Mrs. Chen," my executive assistant's voice came through the intercom, "your daughter-in-law is currently making quite a scene in the lobby." I switched one of my screens to the lobby security feed. There was Jessica, waving the magazine and demanding to see me, her perfect influencer makeup starting to crack under pressure. "Let her wait 10 minutes, I instructed. "Then James can bring her up." I used those 10 minutes to finish what I'd been doing, acquiring the company that produced Jessica's favorite luxury handbags. It seemed fitting somehow. When she finally burst into my office, she stopped dead in her tracks. The view alone was enough to silence her, 60 floors up, overlooking the city I'd helped build. My office was larger than her entire apartment, decorated with subtle power, original artwork, ancient artifacts, and yes, a few strategically placed magazine covers. "Please sit down." I gestured to one of the handcrafted leather chairs. "Would you like some tea? It's the same discount store brand from my kitchen." This isn't possible," she stammered, clutching her magazine. You're just." "Just what, dear? Small-minded? Stuck in my little world?" I smiled. "Please do go on. I'm particularly interested in hearing more about how I need to worry about my retirement savings." Thomas entered behind her, having arrived separately. He'd spent the night at my house, asking questions about everything I'd hidden over the years. He looked different now, more grounded, less concerned with appearances. "Mom," he nodded, then turned to his wife. "Jess, you should sit down for this." "No," she found her voice. "This is some kind of trick. You live in that house. You shop at discount stores. You use a chipped mug." "Yes," I agreed, "I do all those things. I also own the company that makes those mugs, the store chain you call Discount, and the development where my little house sits. Would you like to see the paperwork?" She sank into the chair, her legs giving out. "But why?" "Because true wealth isn't about showing off," Thomas answered before I could, making me proud. "It's about value, isn't it, Mom?" I nodded, pressing a button that turned one wall into a screen showing my company's global operations. Value, responsibility, and understanding that money is a tool, not a personality trait. The gala next month, Jessica's voice was small now, "will be held here, yes. As I'm the host, I do hope you'll still attend. Your invitation might need updating thaw. Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Chen sounds better than your influencer handle, don't you think?" She stared at the magazine cover again. 50 billion. Give or take a few billion depending on the market. I sat back in my chair. "Now, about that business plan of yours." Her head snapped up, hope flickering in her eyes. "The projections were terrible," I continued. "Your market analysis was superficial, your cost estimates naive, and your growth predictions fantasy. If you presented this to my actual investment team, they would have laughed you out of the building." But she clutched her folder protectively. "However," I pulled out a new document, "if you're serious about building a business, I have a proposition for you." "Mom?" Thomas looked curious. "A 3-year development program," I explained. "Starting in our marketing department, then moving through various divisions to learn how real businesses operate. After that, if you still want to build your brand, you'll have both the knowledge and the network to do it properly." "You want me to work? For you?" Jessica looked horrified. "I want you to earn something for yourself," I corrected. "Starting salary is entry level, and yes, you'll need to work your way up just like everyone else. But my followers will still be there in 3 years if they're truly valuable." I handed her the employment contract. "Consider it carefully. This offer expires when you leave this office." She looked at Thomas, perhaps expecting him to defend her. but he was reading through the contract with genuine interest. "Jess," he said softly, "do you know what Mom did before starting her company? She worked in a tech support call center. She built all this from nothing." "Actually," I smiled, "I still work in tech support sometimes. It keeps me connected to what our customers really need." Jessica's perfectly manicured hands trembled as she held the contract. "And if I say no?" "Then you leave with exactly what you came in with, minus the gala invitation, of course. Security concerns, you understand." I could see the calculations running behind her eyes. The prestige of being connected to my newly revealed empire versus the humiliation of starting at the bottom. "The house," she said suddenly. "Will you at least move somewhere more appropriate?" "That house was the first property I bought with my own money," I replied. "I think I'll keep it, though you might be interested to know I also own a small private island. Perhaps we could have family holidays there, after you complete your first year of training, of course." The next hour was filled with contract discussions, tears, mostly Jessica's, and finally signatures. As they prepared to leave, Jessica paused. "The tea," she said. "Is it really from the discount store?" "Of course." I held up my chipped mug. "Some things aren't about the price tag, dear. Something you'll learn over the next 3 years." After they left, I turned back to my screens. The business world was still buzzing with the revelation of my identity, but that would settle down. What mattered was that my son had finally seen the truth, and my daughter-in-law was about to learn some valuable lessons. My phone buzzed with a message from Thomas. "Jess is already reading business books. Think this might actually work." I replied with a photo of my chipped mug. "Everything works if you value the right things." Looking out over the city, I smiled. Sometimes the best investment isn't in stocks or properties, but in teaching others the true value of what they have. Even if that lesson comes with a Fortune 500 cover story and a very surprised influencer. 6 months later, I watched through my office window as Jessica hurried across the parking lot in sensible shoes, her designer bags replaced by a practical laptop backpack. The transformation had been fascinating to witness. "Mrs. Chen." She knocked on my door, exactly on time for our monthly review. "I have the market analysis you requested." Gone was the entitled influencer who had demanded my retirement savings. In her place stood a woman who had surprisingly thrown herself into learning with unexpected vigor. "Come in," I gestured to the chair. "How's the customer service rotation going?" She smoothed her modest business suit, bought from the discount store chain I owned. I noted with amusement. "It's enlightening. I had no idea how much work goes into handling customer complaints." "And your followers?" I couldn't resist asking. "Down to 8,000, she admitted, then straightened. "But my last post about authentic business learning got more meaningful engagement than any of my old wellness content." I picked up her report, noting the detailed analysis and practical recommendations. "Thomas mentioned you've been taking night classes in business administration." "Yes." She actually blushed. I realized I didn't know as much as I thought I did. About anything, really. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. She'd come demanding $200,000 for a superficial influencer empire, and now she was excited about completing her first professional certification. "Your team leader says you're showing promise in market research. It's fascinating, actually." Her eyes lit up with genuine enthusiasm. "Understanding real consumer behavior, not just social media trends. I've been developing a theory about micro-market influences in." She stopped, embarrassed by her own excitement. "Go on," I encouraged, hiding my smile behind my chipped mug. As she explained her ideas, I thought about the letter in my desk drawer, the one promoting her to the junior analyst team, 2 months ahead of schedule. She earned it, surprisingly enough. "Oh," she paused, reaching into her bag. "I got you something." She pulled out a mug, identical to my chipped one. "I finally figured out why you keep this specific mug. It's from the first store chain you invested in, isn't it? Before you made it big." I turned the mug over, seeing the familiar logo. "Very good detective work." "I learned from the best." She hesitated. "I'm sorry about before. All of it. I was so focused on looking successful that I never thought about being successful. And now I understand why you live in that house and shop at those stores. It's about remembering where you came from, isn't it? About keeping your values even when your value changes." I set down both mugs, the chipped one and its twin. "You're learning the right lessons, Jessica. Though I notice you haven't mentioned wellness coaching recently. Actually, she pulled out another report. I've been developing a business plan for a corporate wellness program. Real wellness, based on research and results, not just Instagram filters. Would you look at it? When you have time. I took the report, remembering her first ridiculous proposal. This one, I noted, had proper financial projections, market research, and a solid implementation strategy. 3 years, I reminded her. That was the deal. I know, she stood straighter. And I plan to earn every minute of it. But when I'm ready, I want to do it right this time. As she left my office, Thomas came in. Was that Jess with a new business plan? Your wife might surprise us all yet. I handed him the report. She's learning. We all are. He picked up the new mug. Though I notice you're still using the chipped one. Some things, I smiled, are worth keeping exactly as they are. Later that evening, as I locked up my office, I saw Jessica still at her desk, studying customer feedback reports. She had replaced her designer coffee with tea from my discount brand, served in a mug identical to mine. Sometimes the best investments aren't the ones we make in business, but in people. And sometimes the biggest returns come from the most unexpected sources, even from a former influencer who learned to value substance over style, one chipped mug at a time. Because true success isn't about the money you have or the things you own. It's about maintaining your values while building your value, a lesson Jessica was finally beginning to understand. And that was worth more than any amount she could have demanded from my retirement savings. The city bus stopped right on schedule, 6:45 p.m., just like it had for the past 30 years. I adjusted my worn wool coat and checked my simple watch, a habit I've maintained even after acquiring enough money to buy the entire Swiss watch industry. Evening, Mrs. Wei, the driver smiled. Family dinner again? Yes, Charlie. I swiped my senior bus pass, another small detail in my carefully maintained facade. My son's wife just got a promotion. What I didn't mention was that I'd signed off on that promotion myself, through 3 layers of management, watching Samantha's career at Sterling Motors with hidden interest. Not that she ever suspect the quiet Chinese widow who took the bus was actually Margaret Wei, the reclusive owner of one of the world's largest luxury automotive empires. The bus wound through the expensive neighborhoods where my son David now lived, thanks to his wife's insistence on maintaining their status. The irony of their mortgage being held by one of my subsidiary companies never failed to amuse me. I got off 2 blocks from their house, enjoying the walk past manicured lawns and imported cars. A Sterling Motors flagship sedan sat in their driveway, Samantha's pride and joy, offered at executive discount. If she knew I personally approved that program just to study middle management spending habits, she might have chosen a different brand. Mom. David opened the door before I could knock, hugging me tight. My son still had the kind heart I'd raised him with, even if his wife was slowly trying to reshape him into her idea of success. You should have let me pick you up. The bus is perfectly fine, dear. I handed him the humble fruit basket I'd brought. Though the rare Asian pears inside cost more than Samantha's monthly car payment. Oh, you're here. Samantha appeared in the hallway, perfect in her designer dress and Sterling Motors executive name tag. Her nose wrinkled at my simple clothes. David, you really should have sent the car. Mom likes the bus, he defended, but weakly. Nobody likes the bus. She turned to me with that condescending smile I'd grown to know well. Really, Mother Wei, at your age you shouldn't be dealing with public transportation. What do people think when they see a Sterling Motors executive's mother-in-law taking the bus like a... Well, like a what, dear? I asked mildly, setting my purse down, a knockoff of a brand I majority owned. Like a beggar, she finished, lifting her chin. It reflects poorly on our position in the company. David winced. Samantha. No, David, this needs to be said. She crossed her arms. Mother Wei, with my new promotion to regional sales director, we have an image to maintain. I can't have board members seeing you at the bus stop like some penniless immigrant. If she only knew that tomorrow's board meeting would reveal exactly what kind of immigrant she was speaking to. The timing was perfect. I'd finally decided to step out of the shadows after 30 years of running Sterling Motors through proxies and shell companies. I'm comfortable with the bus, I said simply. Well, I'm not comfortable with it. She gestured around her expensive home. Look at how we live. Look at what we've achieved. And then there's you, in your little apartment, taking the bus, wearing clothes from wherever you get them. I glanced down at my outfit, hand-tailored in Milan, actually just made to look modest. The bus is reliable. That's it. She threw up her hands. David, give me your checkbook. We're buying your mother a car right now. Something small and basic, of course. We can't have her embarrassing herself with anything too nice. Samantha, David started, but she was already pulling out her phone. I'll call the dealership. George owes me a favor. He can process it tonight. Nothing fancy, maybe a compact model. She paused, tapping her chin. Though we should probably avoid Sterling Motors. Can't have people thinking we give charity to family. The doorbell rang, right on schedule. My assistant was nothing if not punctual. I'll get it, I said, moving before either of them could react. Opening the door, I greeted James, my CFO, who stood there in his impeccable suit. Mrs. Way, he nodded formally. The board papers require your immediate signature for tomorrow's announcement. Samantha had drifted over, curious about the executive-looking man at her door. Excuse me, this is a private family dinner. Yes, I agreed, taking the folder from James. A perfect time to review these documents about Sterling Motors' ownership structure. Would you like to see them, dear? Since you're so concerned about the company's image. Her face shifted from confusion to shock as I opened the folder, revealing the papers that would tomorrow announce Margaret Way, the bus-riding widow, as the owner and CEO of Sterling Motors Global. This isn't possible, she stammered. The bus, I explained, signing the documents with my real signature for the first time in decades, gives you an excellent view of how your company actually runs. Though I doubt you've noticed that from the back of your discounted sedan. David moved closer, his eyes wide as he read over my shoulder. Mom, you own Sterling Motors, yes. I handed the papers back to James, among other things. Now, shall we discuss that charity car you were so eager to buy me? Or would you prefer to talk about tomorrow's board meeting? Regional Sales Director Thompson. Samantha's perfect makeup couldn't hide her rapidly paling face. The night was young, and I had 30 years of observations to discuss with my ambitious daughter-in-law. The silence in Samantha's perfectly decorated dining room was deafening. Her elaborate dinner party setup, clearly intended to celebrate her promotion, now seemed painfully ironic. The Sterling Motors branded centerpiece, which she'd borrowed from the corporate showroom, felt particularly pointed. Let me understand this, she finally managed, gripping her designer chair. All this time, when I was rising through the ranks at Sterling. I was signing off on your promotions? Yes, I sampled the expensive wine she'd been bragging about earlier. Though I must say, your work did merit advancement. I don't believe in nepotism, even in reverse. David hadn't moved from his spot, still processing the revelation. The apartment, the bus, all these years. A CEO needs to understand her company from the ground up. I explained, watching Samantha's face as realization after realization hit her. The bus route passes 8 of our dealerships. I've learned more about our customer service from fellow passengers than any focus group could tell me. The complaints I made about the senior bus pass program, Samantha whispered, horrified, were quite illuminating. I smiled. Especially your memo suggesting we discontinue our senior transport subsidiary because, what was the phrase? Old people should just buy cars or stay home. David finally found his voice. But Mom, why didn't you tell me? Would you have become the dedicated teacher you are if you'd grown up as the heir to Sterling Motors? I asked gently, would you have married for love if everyone knew your mother was a billionaire? I married for love, Samantha interjected quickly. I raised an eyebrow. Did you, dear? Is that why you've been sending your resume to BMW for the past month? Her fork clattered to the floor. How did you? I own significant shares in BMW too. I dabbed my lips with the expensive napkin. Your interview next week has been canceled, by the way, though I'm sure tomorrow's board meeting will be much more interesting. David turned to his wife, hurt crossing his face. You were planning to leave Sterling. I thought it was a dead-end company with absent leadership, she defended. All those rumors about the mysterious owner, never showing up, running everything through proxies. While riding the bus past your office every day, I completed. Tell me, dear, how many times did you drive past me at the bus stop? How many times did you complain about the embarrassing old lady waiting there? Samantha's perfect composure cracked. The board meeting tomorrow. will introduce me as the founder and CEO of Sterling Motors, yes. I pulled out my real phone, not the basic model she'd seen me use, but the latest prototype our tech division was developing. Would you like to see the announcement video? You feature in it quite prominently. I do. Oh yes. Your various comments about ancient leadership and outdated management were quite useful in demonstrating why we need fresh perspectives. I played the video, watching her face as her own words appeared on screen. Though perhaps not the perspective you were hoping for. You're firing me, she whispered. On the contrary, I turned off the phone. I'm promoting you. Both she and David stared at me. To what? She asked suspiciously. Entry-level customer service. At our bus subsidiary. I took another sip of wine. 6 months of actually talking to the people you've been so eager to dismiss. Consider it executive training. That's ridiculous. I'm a regional sales director. And I'm your mother-in-law who takes the bus. I smiled. Amazing how perspectives can change, isn't it? David, who had been quietly processing everything, suddenly laughed. The fruit basket. Asian pears from a small farm I own in Japan, I confirmed. They sell for $200 each in luxury markets. I thought Samantha might appreciate the irony, given her comments about my cheap gifts. Samantha looked at the half-eaten pear on her plate with new horror. All those times I threw away your homemade meals were quite educational, though perhaps not as educational as your new position will be. I stood straightening my cheap jacket. James will email you the details. I expect you at the bus stop at 6 a.m. Monday morning. We can ride together. Mom, David interrupted, our anniversary party next month, were you really planning to cater it yourself like Samantha's been complaining about? Oh, that. I smiled. I thought I'd have my friend Wolfgang handle it. You might know him as Wolfgang Puck. We're on the same board at the Ritz. Samantha made a small choking sound. Now, I gathered my things. I believe I'll take the bus home. Samantha, would you like to join me? We can discuss your new uniform requirements. I think I need to lie down, she mumbled. Of course. The board meeting starts at 9 a.m. sharp tomorrow. Do dress appropriately, though perhaps not in that knockoff channel you bought last week. I paused at the door. Oh, and I actually own the real Chanel too. Just something to think about while you're processing returns at the bus station. David walked me out, still shaking his head in amazement. Mom, I don't know what to say. Say you'll help your wife understand that true value isn't about what you own or what you show. I hugged him. Though I suspect the next 6 months will teach her that better than we ever could. As I waited at the bus stop, I saw Samantha watching from her window. Her precious Sterling Motors sedan sat in a driveway, its logo glinting in the evening light. Tomorrow, that same logo would appear behind me as I stepped up to the podium, revealing 30 years of hidden leadership. But tonight, I was just a woman waiting for the bus, carrying a designer purse disguised as a knockoff, wearing Italian clothes made to look humble, and smiling at the thought of tomorrow's board meeting. Sometimes the best lessons in humility come from the most unexpected teachers, like a billionaire CEO who chooses to take the bus. Charlie pulled up right on schedule. Evening, Mrs. Way. Good dinner? Educational, I replied, swiping my senior pass. Very educational indeed. From her window, Samantha watched the bus pull away, unaware that her new life would begin on that same route in just a few days. Some people learn their lessons in boardrooms and corner offices. Others learn them at a bus stop at 6 a.m. on a Monday morning. 3 months into Samantha's executive training program, I watched from my usual bus seat as she helped an elderly gentleman with his grocery bags. Her uniform, the one she'd initially called worse than death, was now worn with an unconscious professionalism. Good morning, Mrs. Way, she said as I boarded, no longer stumbling over the greeting. During the first month, she'd still called me Mother Way until a regular passenger corrected her. Show some respect, girl. Mrs. Way's been riding this route longer than you've been alive. Morning, Samantha. How's the new route? Actually, she straightened her name badge. I've been meaning to talk to you about that. I've noticed the timing on Route 27 could be optimized to better serve the medical center shift changes. I hid my smile. Have you written up a proposal? She pulled out a carefully prepared document quite different from the glossy presentations she'd once favored, complete with cost analysis and passenger survey data. The transformation hadn't been immediate. The first week, she showed up in designer heels. They're practical. And full makeup, image matters. By day 3, she'd switched to sensible shoes. By week 2, she'd learned why heavy makeup and 12-hour shifts don't mix. I'll review it, I promised, tucking the proposal into my authentic Birkin bag, still disguised as a knockoff. David had noticed the changes too. She actually cooked dinner last night, he told me recently. From scratch. Said she learned the recipe from one of her regular passengers. The biggest surprise had come last week when Samantha submitted her resignation from her old position, formally declining to return to sales director after her training. I've been thinking, she said now, helping another passenger with their fare card. The bus subsidiary has potential for expansion if we integrated it more closely with the luxury car division. Oh, well, not everyone who appreciates luxury can drive, or should drive. And our current demographic studies are missing huge segments of the market. I watched her help a mother with a stroller, smoothly managing the bus's wheelchair lift with practiced ease. You have ideas about this? Several. She bit her lip. I was hoping, could I present them at the next board meeting? Not as a sales director or even as your daughter-in-law, just as someone who's learned the business from the ground up. 3 months ago, she would have demanded the presentation slot as her right. Now she asked with genuine humility and genuine knowledge to back it up. Thursday at 10, I told her, wear your uniform. My uniform? To the board meeting? Trust me. On Thursday, Samantha stood before the board in her bus company uniform, presenting a comprehensive plan for integrating luxury transportation services across all economic levels. The same board members she'd once tried to impress with designer suits now listened attentively to her detailed analysis of community needs and market opportunities. And that's why I believe Sterling Motors shouldn't just be about selling luxury, she concluded. It should be about providing luxury transportation experiences to everyone, whether they're in our newest sedan or our most reliable bus. The silence that followed was broken by applause, led by me. Congratulations, I said, standing. You've just completed your real executive training. What? 6 months wasn't necessary, I explained. You learned the most important lesson in 3. True luxury isn't about exclusion. It's about understanding and serving all our customers regardless of how they choose to travel. So, my old position is available, I confirmed, though I thought you might be more interested in heading our new integrated transportation division, starting with implementing these proposals. She looked down at her uniform, then back at me with new understanding. Can I still drive the bus route sometimes? I still ride it, I reminded her. Some of our best market research happens at 6 a.m. with a senior pass and an open mind. Later, as we rode the bus home together, her by choice now, not punishment, she asked, why did you give me a second chance? Because 30 years ago, I was an immigrant with a dream of building something meaningful. I just needed to make sure you understood what meaningful really means. She nodded, then stood to help a passenger with their bags. As I watched her work, I smiled. Sometimes the longest journey starts with a bus ride, and sometimes the best executives are made not in boardrooms, but on Route 27 at dawn, learning what luxury really means, one passenger at a time. I never planned to reveal my wealth to my family, especially not like this. But watching my grandson James stride into my small apartment with that same condescending smile his father used to wear, I knew it was time. Grandma Eleanor, he embraced me with the careful gentleness people reserve for fragile things. His designer suit probably cost more than what he thought I made in a year. I brought your monthly support check early this time. I gestured to my worn but comfortable couch, a deliberate choice that had helped maintain my image as the struggling grandmother for the past decade. Would you like some tea, dear? I just made a fresh pot. Actually, Grandma, I wanted to talk to you about something. He pulled out a checkbook embossed with his company's logo, Tech Front Industries. I've been blessed with another successful year, and I'd like to increase your monthly support to $8,000. I poured tea into my favorite chipped mug, another prop in my carefully crafted persona. That's very generous, sweetheart. Well, I'm worried about you, Grandma. This neighborhood isn't the safest, and this apartment. He glanced around at my deliberately modest furnishings. You deserve better. Have you considered that assisted living facility I mentioned? I hid my smile behind my mug. The facility he mentioned was actually owned by one of my holding companies. Uncomfortable here, James. Tell me about TechFront's expansion plans instead. His face lit up. My grandson never could resist talking about his success. We're actually closing a major deal next week. Someone's investing $50 million in our new AI division. Anonymous investor, very mysterious, but their money's good. He chuckled. Maybe I can increase your allowance even more once it closes. About that investment, I set down my mug and walked to my bedroom. I have something to show you. Grandma, we don't need to discuss money. I know it makes you uncomfortable. Oh, I'm quite comfortable discussing money, dear. I returned with my laptop, not the old model I usually kept in the living room for show, but my actual work computer. Did you ever wonder why your anonymous investor insisted on meeting only through lawyers? James's smile faltered slightly. How do you know about those meetings? I opened my banking app and entered my credentials. Because I sat in on all of them, dear. Though you knew me as Mrs. E. Richardson from Singapore. Mrs. Richardson. But that's... The color drained from his face as I turned the screen toward him. The offshore account balance glowed clearly. $897,453,289.16. That's impossible. He grabbed the laptop, scrolling through transaction histories. His eyes widened at the recurring transfers to multiple investment funds, real estate holdings, and most importantly, the $50 million pending transfer to TechFront Industries. Impossible? I took back my computer. James, who do you think funded your father's first business, or your sister's medical school? Why do you think your mother still receives mysterious Christmas bonuses every year? He collapsed back against the couch. But, you live here. You take my checks. You shop at discount stores. I live here because I choose to. I take your checks because I saw how much pride you took in helping me. And I shop at discount stores because I didn't build my fortune by wasting money on overpriced labels. I gave him a pointed look at his designer suit. But how? When? Your grandfather didn't leave me with nothing, James. He left me with knowledge and his black book of contacts. While everyone thought I was just a grieving widow, I was building partnerships across Asia. That bridge club I attended every Wednesday, board meetings via video conference. Those cooking classes I taught, investment strategy sessions. James ran his hands through his perfectly styled hair. Does Dad know? Your father assumes his success came from his own brilliance, just like you did. I patted his hand. You're both excellent businessmen, but you never questioned where that initial seed money really came from. The anonymous donations to my college fund. Me. That mysterious angel investor who saved Dad's company during the recession. Also me. Grandma. He looked around the apartment with new eyes, finally seeing beyond the surface. The outdated computer setup that actually housed 3 monitors behind a false wall. The old television that concealed a state-of-the-art trading station. The memory wall of family photos that doubled as a secure safe. Why tell me now? I took back my laptop, pulling up another account, because tomorrow, TechFront is announcing a merger with Asia's largest AI development firm. The press will reveal that Mrs. E. Richardson is behind both companies. I smiled at my grandson. I thought you deserved to hear it from me first. You're going public? After all these years? I'm 82, James. It's time to start teaching the next generation. Starting with you, if you're willing to learn from your struggling grandmother. He stared at me for a long moment before a genuine smile spread across his face. Not the condescending one from earlier, but the warm one I remembered from his childhood. When can we start? I closed my laptop. First lesson, appearance isn't everything. That's why I live here, drive a 10-year-old car, and yes, shop at discount stores. Real power doesn't need to show off. James looked down at his expensive suit and laughed. I guess I failed that lesson. Don't worry, dear, we have time. I reached for my phone. But first, you might want to cancel that $8,000 check. I think your grandmother can manage without it. As I watched James process everything, I thought about tomorrow's headlines, about the looks on my family's faces when they realized the truth. But mostly, I thought about my late husband's words. Eleanor, they'll underestimate you. Let them. Build something extraordinary while they're not looking. The next morning, my carefully constructed world began to unravel. Exactly as I planned. I sat in my modest apartment watching multiple news channels simultaneously on my hidden monitors as the business world exploded with the revelation of Mrs. E. Richardson's identity. Breaking news. Tech Front Industries merger reveals shocking connection to Asian tech giant. Business titan Mrs. E. Richardson identified as 82-year-old American grandmother. Eleanor Richardson, the invisible hand behind dozens of Fortune 500 companies. My phone hadn't stopped ringing since dawn. I let them all go to voicemail: family, reporters, business associates. All except one call. Mom? My son David's voice cracked slightly. I just saw the news. I need to see you. Of course, dear. Bring Catherine and the kids. I suspect we have a lot to discuss. Within an hour, my small living room was packed with more family members than I had seen in years. David and his wife Catherine sat stunned on the couch where James had been yesterday. My daughter Patricia paced by the window, still in her doctor's coat. She must have left the hospital mid-shift. Her husband Robert kept opening and closing his mouth like a fish out of water. James stood in the corner, looking both proud and sheepish. Would anyone like tea? I offered, maintaining my usual grandmother persona one last time. Tea? Patricia exploded. Mom, we just found out you're worth billions, that you've been secretly controlling half our lives, and you're offering tea. Well, I could offer champagne, but I find difficult conversations go better with tea. David leaned forward, his face a mix of emotions. Mom, why? Why live like this when you could have had a mansion, traveled the world openly, lived the high life? I set down my familiar chipped mug. Because that's not who I am. It's not who your father raised you with. But the checks, Catherine whispered. We've been sending you money for years, thinking you needed help. And I appreciated the thought behind every one. I pulled out a folder. In fact, I invested each check you sent. Here's an account in your names. Your support money has grown quite nicely with compound interest. Robert finally found his voice. The children's college funds. Their trust funds, that was all you. Of course. Did you really think your mysterious great-aunt in Europe existed? I smiled. Though I must say, that was one of my better cover stories. Patricia stopped pacing. The hospital donation that saved the pediatric ward. Mom, that was you. You were so passionate about saving that ward. How could I not help? But why the secrecy? David demanded. Why let us think you were struggling? Do you know how many nights I lay awake worried about you? Oh, David. I moved to sit beside my son. After your father died, everyone treated me like I was helpless. Poor widow Eleanor, who knew nothing about business. Even you, dear, you tried to take over managing my finances, remember? He had the grace to look embarrassed. I was trying to help. I know, but I didn't need help. I needed space to build something on my own. Your father taught me everything about business, but nobody knew that. They underestimated me, and that became my greatest advantage. The bridge club, Patricia sat down heavily. Those women you played with. CEOs, investment bankers, and tech innovators from across Asia. We built an empire while everyone thought we were trading recipes and gossip. James stepped forward. She's been incredible. The strategies she's developed, the network she's built. Harvard Business School should be studying her methods. Actually, I smiled, they do. Under a different name, of course. Catherine shook her head in wonder. But surely now you'll move? Get a proper house? This is my home, my command center. Every outdated item here hides cutting-edge technology. That bookshelf. House of servers connecting to offices in 5 countries. The spare bedroom. A fully equipped trading floor. The cookie jar. David's eyes widened. The one you never let us touch. Biometric scanner. Opens my secure files. Robert laughed suddenly. All those times you said you couldn't babysit because of your cooking classes. Board meetings, though I did learn to make excellent dumplings from a Chinese tech mogul. But now everyone knows, Patricia said. It's all over the news. What happens next? I stood walking to my memory wall of photos. With a gentle press, it swung open to reveal a state-of-the-art safe. Next, we begin phase 2. James has already started his training. The rest of you have roles to play, if you want them. Roles? They all leaned forward. David, your software company's new project? It's exactly what my Asian partners need. Patricia, That medical research you've been trying to fund. I have investors waiting. Catherine and Robert, your careers could expand globally with the right connections. You've been orchestrating all of this? David asked. I've been preparing, building foundations, but the choices are yours. I closed the safe. I didn't help you all these years because you were struggling. I helped because I saw your potential. Now it's time to help you soar. The room fell silent as they processed everything. Finally, Patricia spoke, her voice thick with emotion. All these years we thought we were taking care of you. And you were, in your own ways. Your love, your concern, your weekly visits, those meant more than any business success. David stood suddenly, pulling me into a tight hug. I'm sorry, Mom. Sorry we underestimated you. Sorry we treated you like a helpless grandmother. I hugged him back. Don't be sorry. Be ready. Because tomorrow we start learning how to run this empire as a family. What about the press? Catherine asked. They're going crazy out there. I smiled, the same smile I used to close billion-dollar deals. Let them. They'll write their stories about the surprising grandmother who built an empire in secret. But we know the truth. There's nothing surprising about a woman who decides to change the world, even if she does it from a small apartment, drinking tea from a chipped mug. James raised his eyebrow. Speaking of that mug, is it actually some kind of high-tech device? No, dear. I picked up my favorite mug. Some things are exactly what they appear to be. That's lesson 2. Never complicate something that works perfectly well as it is. As my family laughed, I looked around at their faces, no longer filled with concern or pity, but with pride and anticipation. Tomorrow, we would begin their real education in business, power, and legacy. But tonight, we were just a family, sharing tea and truth in a not-so-modest apartment. 1 month after the revelation, I sat in my newly renovated office, still in the same apartment, but now openly equipped with everything I needed. The world had finally settled into accepting the grandmother mogul. Though the press still camped outside occasionally, hoping for interviews, my family had transformed beautifully. David now confidently led joint ventures with our Asian partners, his software company expanding beyond his wildest dreams. Patricia had launched a global medical research initiative, funded by my network of investors. Even Catherine and Robert had found their footing in international business development. But it was James who surprised me most. Grandma? He walked in, no longer wearing designer suits but carrying himself with a new kind of confidence. The Singapore team is ready for the conference call. I nodded, noting how he'd learned to move quietly, speak precisely, and observe everything, just as I had taught him. And the London office? Already briefed. They're implementing the strategy you suggested. He paused. The one you used in 1992. You've been studying the old files. Every night. I still can't believe you pulled off that merger during a global recession while everyone thought you were at a quilting retreat. I smiled, remembering those intense negotiations conducted via encrypted channels while my fingers actually did learn to quilt. Sometimes the best deals are made when no one's watching. The screen lit up with faces from across Asia, my old Bridge Club members now openly working with the next generation. I watched as James took the lead in the meeting, handling complex negotiations with the same subtle touch I'd spent years perfecting. After the call, he turned to me. The press wants another interview. They're calling you the Queen of Silent Empires. Let them call me what they want. I pulled out a thick folder. We have more important matters to discuss. Have you reviewed the African market analysis? Yes, and I think I see what you saw, incredible potential, overlooked by everyone else. Just like I overlooked a widow with a chipped mug. He laughed. I'll never live down how I treated you, will I? Consider it a lasting lesson in humility. I opened the folder. Now about these emerging markets. The intercom buzzed, my one concession to modern office equipment. Mrs. Richardson, your son is here with the board reports. David entered carrying both reports and a familiar paper bag. Brought your favorite tea, Mom. The cheap brand from the discount store. Still the best tea I've ever had. I took the bag. How's the Tokyo expansion? Smooth now that I'm using your negotiation techniques. Though I still can't believe you conducted their biggest deal of 1998 while supposedly attending my parent-teacher conference. I did attend the conference. I just also closed the deal during the principal's very long speech about proper school attire. We all laughed, but I saw the respect in their eyes. respect earned not just by my wealth or success, but by the decades of careful planning and quiet power that had built it all. My phone buzzed with a message from Patricia. Her medical research project had just received regulatory approval in 3 countries. Another from Catherine. She'd successfully launched the educational foundation we discussed. Robert's message followed. The European expansion was exceeding projections. James said softly, "You could retire now. Everyone knows your power. You don't have to keep working." I looked at my grandson, remembering the young man who'd offered me monthly checks with such condescension. "I don't work because I have to, dear. I work because this is who I am. The only difference is now I don't have to pretend to be at Bridge Club while doing it." David squeezed my shoulder. "You taught us all so much, Mom. Not just about business, but about patience, humility, and the power of being underestimated. And I'm still teaching." I pointed to the African market reports. "Now let's talk about how we're going to change another continent while everyone else is looking the other way." As we bent over the reports, I thought about how different this was from my decades of working in secret. But some things hadn't changed. The thrill of seeing potential where others saw nothing, the joy of building something extraordinary, and the pleasure of sharing tea with family while planning to quietly change the world. After all, I was still Eleanor Richardson, grandmother, businesswoman, empire builder. I just didn't have to hide it anymore.